स्टडी IQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
Welcome to StudyIQ's initiative, the podcast. I am your host, Dipansh Murjani. So tighten your belts because it is time for the podcast of the day. In our previous episodes, we have discussed some important schedules of our constitution. We discussed Schedule 7 and then we discussed Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. All our new listeners, for clearing their doubts, can listen to our episodes not only on YouTube but also on all the audio streaming platforms like Spotify, Hubhopper, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Kuku FM, etc. In today's episode, we are going to discuss federalism in detail. Sir, we all know that India is a federal nation. But if we want to understand the definition of federalism, then how can we understand it in simple words?
The meaning of federalism refers to a vertical division of power in a political system. It is a system in which power is divided between central authority and other constituents of that power. For example, in India, political power is divided between central government and state governments and the institutions of local governance also.
Sir, can you throw some light on features of federalism?
I would like to point out 4 important features of federal system. The first one is multiple levels of government. Federalism by its very definition requires multiple levels of government functioning within their defined territory. The second important function is division of power. The power is divided by the division of subjects between the entities so that the chances of conflict are reduced to minimum. The third important concept is written constitution. It ensures that there is a clarity in the respective division of power. Again, a rigid constitution ensures that this division of power is not easily disturbed. The fourth and last important feature for federalism is having an independent judiciary. Independent judiciary acts as a dispute resolution mechanism between different levels of government.
Sir, after understanding the features of federalism in general, now we are curious to know about the features of Indian federalism.
Interdependence of state and central government can be summed up like India consciously adopted a version of federalism that made the union government and state governments interdependent on each other, thereby violating the primal characteristics of a federal constitution, that is, autonomous spheres of authority for union as well as state governments. Other constitutional features on similar lines include the size and composition of Rajya Sabha akin to that of Lok Sabha, therefore favoring larger states. Article 3 of Indian Constitution, which allows the Union to alter the boundaries of state. Emergency powers are also mentioned, which also shows that there is a tilt towards center. Concurrent list subjects of the 7th schedule, wherein the Union possesses more authority than the state, barring a few exceptions into that. The next important thing we need to understand is how holding together federalism works. India's centralized federal structure was not marked by the process of coming together, but was an outcome of holding together and putting together. Coming together federalism we can see and observe in the case of USA. However, in India, states have not come together and formed India. Rather, after formation of India, states have been created. Next feature is indestructible and flexibility into it. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar called India's federation a union as it was indestructible, which is why the constitution does not contain words related to federalism. He also said that India's constitution holds requisite flexibility to be federal and unitary on need-to-need basis.
Sir, whenever Indian federalism is discussed, it is said that India's federalism is quite unique when it is compared to other countries. But we as UPSC aspirants are inquisitive to understand what is the opinion of Supreme Court in respect to Indian federalism.
Federalism is a topic where Supreme Court deals in a very larger context. The Supreme Court of India held that federalism was a part of basic structure of Indian Constitution in the SR Bommai versus Union of India case in 1994. Then the court also held that the Indian variant of federalism upholds a strong center in Kuldeep Nair versus Union of India case in 2006.
Sir, can you throw some light on different facets of federalism?
As we are understanding the different aspects of federalism, it is very important for Indian federalism to be understood in different facets. Number one is cooperative federalism. It refers to the horizontal relationship between the entities in a federal structure. For example, India is a federal country with power divided between the center and state. Cooperative federalism also refers to the cooperation between the two entities in pursuit of unified socio-economic development of the country. For example, despite having their divisions over various issues, the center and state are expected to come together to face a crisis which affects the country in its entirety. We have seen this cooperative federalism when the corona hit India and the whole country along with center and state fought the corona pandemic together. The next important facet is competitive federalism. It refers to promoting healthy competition between the states to keep them motivated in pursuit of economic development. For example, Niti Aayog has developed multiple indices to showcase the progress achieved by respective states in different sectors. The states which are lagging are expected to put in extra efforts to catch up with the front runners, while the front runners are expected to work hard to retain and to improve their rankings in day-to-day basis. The next important facet of federalism in India to be understood as fiscal federalism. It deals with the division of financial powers as well as the functions between multiple levels of federal government. It has within its ambit the imposition of taxes as well as the division of different taxes between center and the constituent units. Similarly, in the case of joint collection of taxes, an objective criteria is determined for the fair division of funds between the entities. Usually, there is a constitutional authority like Finance Commission in India for the purpose to ensure fairness in the division.
Sir, when we study federalism, we often get confused while understanding the reasons for adopting federalism in India. So can you explain to us in simple words that why did our constitutional makers adopt federalism?
It is a very important point you raised, Dipansh, that why at first instant our constitutional makers thought and adopted the federal structures of India what we have today. So in this context, I would like to make a list of some reasons. The first is we had some past experiences. It is worth noting that the Indian National Congress opposed the discretionary powers of the provincial governors in the run-up to the 1937 elections, and at the same time they advocated in favor of autonomy of the states. However, following the governance experience in 1939, Nehru argued otherwise. The next important reason for adopting federalism in India was safeguarding the integrity of nation. After the partition, a revised stand was unanimously taken by Union Powers Committee of Constituent Assembly in favor of strong union with residuary powers and weaker states to safeguard the integrity of nation. The next reason is that helping India come out of social problems, a strong center was very important. Nehru and Ambedkar believed that a centralized federal structure would unsettle prevalent trends of social dominance and help fight poverty better and therefore yield liberating outcomes. The next important reason for adopting federalism was objective of building a welfare state. In a decentralized federal setup, redistributive policies would be structurally sound by organized groups. Instead, a centralized federal setup can prevent such issues and further a universal rights-based system.
Sir, we have seen that over the time, features of our constitution evolve. So presently, what is the scenario when it comes to Indian federalism?
The current form of federalism in Indian context is largely a function of the intent of the government of the day and the objectives it seeks to achieve through states. Thus, the structure's effectiveness is solely dependent on the intent and objective of government's aims to achieve. India's federal setup is a conscious choice. Its furthering or undoing will depend on the collective will of the citizenry and the representatives they vote to power.
Sir, thank you for giving us the information. Dear listeners, it is time to wrap up this episode of the podcast. In the next episode, we will be back soon with another topic. Till then, stay connected with StudyIQ and keep studying. You can listen to StudyIQ Presents the podcast on various audio streaming platforms such as Kuku FM, Spotify, Hubhopper, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, etc. Links are pinned in the comment section below. Thank you.